the TV, we're going to be all staring at it today. Okay. Hey, team.
Hello.
Hello. I haven't been in this room. I know the question, but I'm a little bit of I know. So this is the fun part, I think, of the program. Yeah. And has any of you been through some team coaching or any coaching? Yeah. So these are the things that. Okay. Yeah. But coaching is all about you. And when I mentioned to you yesterday, you are the bosses, as I say. Yeah. And coaching is a belief that you come with the question, but you also have the answers. Mentoring is when you. A mentor is someone who knows something better than you, and you're giving them some advice. I will not give you any advice. You'll come up to your own advices, and probably if someone who has to would need to teach someone, probably you would teach me more than I could teach you something. But really, suggested just so you know what to expect. Yeah. And I'll be guiding you through the process. There's a way we're gonna do that. So today, what we're doing, these questions here, we're gonna go through them together. And the first stage is about just talking about your organization. And once we're gonna go through these questions together, we're just gonna brainstorm and talk, just discuss about it. So this is like opening the box, yeah. And we're gonna talk about the elements that you see on the purpose map in a different way. And after about an hour, we're gonna have a question. I think the last question is, so with all that we have said, we're gonna talk about your strengths and what do you see from what you have here, your areas of growth. And from that, we're gonna pick a topic, your coaching topic. So the goal for today's session of the 2 hours is to really come to the coaching topic. And for me, through listening to you, be able to create for you a coaching program for tomorrow, which I'm going to explain how it's going to look like. Yeah? I am a process person, so you're going to see there's, yeah, and I like maps and stuff. So, any questions you have so far? I tend to speak very fast, so you just stop me. This is just my personality. So if it goes too fast, you just let me know.
No problem. We have other fast talkers.
The fast talkers? Yeah. Is there anything you need to make you feel comfortable and good for you? Yeah, and it's really fun. So yeah, I can hear Linda. You have something on your mind.
Okay, no, really comfortable. I have a question. What is it being recorded?
Yes, that's a good question. The recording it's actually for the collective rising. Mm-hmm. Yes, everything is confidential. So also, whatever you tell me, of course, Joyce will be also. Normally, she will be coming to our sessions. When we're gonna have, she will be sitting there in the background. She doesn't talk maybe at the beginning, yes, doesn't talk in the middle of the session. But it's for Joyce. And I think that it's more afterwards to see how you are evolving and so on. But it's not sent to anyone, we're not sharing this. Yeah, so it's very confidential from that perspective. But the confidentiality means you, me, and Joyce. And Pita, because he's doing, they have to write reports afterwards, so this is how if we miss something, we forgot, they come back. Yeah, good question, thank you. Okay, ready? Let's go. So we're gonna have to find question number 1. This is number 6. Let's go. So we're gonna walk around. Number 7. Here's number 1. daily, to your mission?
I was just asking similar questions to the team in some recent spaces, so I will sit back and not answer first.
I can start. So,
We're gonna be passing that. Do you know this technique?
oh, I wrote it down.
I'm gonna teaching you some techniques so you can.
Oh, this is for writing or for the speaking marker?
Exactly. Whoever has the mark has the power, but then you have the power to write and to speak.
It's up to you.
Okay, so having served in KIMANYA, I think what we're trying to do is see how education leads to some form of development in communities. And the development we're seeing is both as an individual in the community and the community as a whole. And that can be both intellectually, materially, and spiritually. So I think that's what we're trying to do as an organization.
Do you want to summarize?
Do you wanna write it down? You can just write keywords. Is really, because there's a power in writing. When you write down something, there's
You also mentioned different dimensions of development, material, social, spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So, in what way, how does this show up in your daily operations, in your daily life, in your daily work? You know, when you, how does this shine through your daily work?
A bit of the organization, or this is
Yes.
the individuals in the work of the organization?
I think it's to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's to everyone. So you can, whoever wants to speak, you're gonna get
Not
the,
to
the,
you
this is
personally.
the power. You
So
can
I'll
choose
pass
it.
this, huh?
Yeah, you can give it to someone. You can offer them 3 colors.
Kalinga's ready. Stick out the hand.
Like I hear.
Because you see, like what we're sharing with you yesterday, KIMANYA has different lines of action. So this is reflected in the different lines of action. And I'm going to speak on the line of action that I closely work with, I coordinate, and that is agriculture. So when you talk about education for development, and we know that a lot of people believe that development is something that should be brought from outside. So there is a segment of maybe the population of people that God created that should be there to do things for others.
Yeah.
You know, but for us, that's not really our belief. Our belief is that every human being has the capacity, potentially we have the capacity to contribute to the well-being of our society, of the world. But it's only when we get that true education that we'll be able to contribute, effectively to that development. So when I look at a farmer, for example, I know that a farmer who is just a recipient of, let's say, development programs, he'll just be there, passive. But a farmer who receives this education that we are talking about here, he will be an active participant in the development of their communities. For example, he won't just accept someone to come from outside and tell him that use this fertilizer or use this chemical and this is what you are going to get. He will first ask, okay, this fertilizer that you are telling me to use, how is it going to affect my health? How is it going to affect my environment? How is it going to affect, the people around me? So this is the kind of farmer that we want, that we are striving, to develop, to assist, become in the community. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is this systemic thinking. You think about the whole system around, yeah. And you've mentioned also at the beginning that it's such a beautiful thing you're doing this empowerment, this bringing, empowering the local people, and that they have, how did you phrase it? They have the capacity to, they know how to translate this program that you're offering into their world. Yeah.
I don't know if this sample something.
And then you mentioned this, that you have in daily life, you have this systems thinking that you actually naturally think about the holistic view, yeah? Is what I'm picking up.
Holistic development or something?
It's for us. We're not gonna send it to anyone to you. I'm gonna just take pictures and send it to you. So just for.
So here I'm thinking about.
That's what was mentioned before.
Yeah, which is here.
Yeah.
Material, intellectual, spiritual. Yeah.
I love that. Nice.
I can add to the question.
Yeah.
Maybe I take
Green.
So you asked, how do we consider this mission within our daily operations? And I would say that at different levels of the organization, we create regular consultative spaces. And in those spaces, especially from my standpoint as a lead for the programs of the organization, my intent in creating these spaces is always to have some kind of reflexive exercise where we are asking, how the things that we have been doing are potentially contributing to this mission, or whether we have managed to stay consistent and focused on what we are trying to do, what insights we might have gained that can contribute to our understanding of that mission, what challenges have come along the way that might be disrupting that. So we'll have these spaces from the level of bringing together all of the coordinators for the different lines of action, along with the management team. Even within the teams themselves, they'll create spaces on a weekly basis to kind of reflect on what the goals and the priorities were for a specific term. Maybe we're thinking these days in terms of three terms within the year. And then, our goal is then to ensure that in these spaces we're asking even our collaborators what they have seen and whether they feel that we are being true to these principles. And many times we can get very caught up in the details of particular plans, and so that's where sometimes maybe on a termly basis, or at least periodically throughout the year, it's the goal of myself and the learning team to bring people and really reflect on these big picture questions, to see that we continue to maintain clarity between the decisions we've made about the goals we've set for the year and how they align with our vision.
So what you're saying is this first of all, this inclusiveness to include the voices, and also have a practice of reflecting back. Are we actually what we're doing linking to what we want to do? Lovely.
Maybe another way that defines expression within the organization, not just now within the members of the organization, but also in our work with community members or stakeholders, is that then in the daily work of everyone, of a lot of our teams, there's the curriculum that we explained yesterday, that we use and it's adopted and it's shaping our various lines of action. But then the efforts of each person in all of these teams will be somewhere between either that you're looking at this curriculum, exposing knowledge to community members, be it farmers, be it teachers, be it all of these various stakeholders, and then you have spaces with them during the year or during the term where you're reflecting on how things are going, in a sense how they are increasingly becoming these individuals that can be protagonists, that can be active in not just their own development, but also the development of the communities or the environment within which they're living or serving or working. So that's like outside of like the organization and things happening within the organization, that's also the orientation of everyone in our work with other stakeholders. One, yeah. It's hard to summarize.
Yeah, does it capture it maybe? By the way, you can write also the other way around. You know, you can write like this. I'm also an engineer, so I like things to be even, but you can do it. Yeah.
What else did we say? Well,
Looking back or probably.
one term we've started to use a lot recently that is shaping how we're all thinking about our engagement with everyone, all of our stakeholders, is the idea of action researchers, raising individuals who are action researchers.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of values shining through this, which are going to lead us, team, to the second question. Alone. I think we're gonna jump. Exactly. We're gonna come back to the second one. We'll jump to the third one because I think it nicely leads to that. What are three core values that define your organization culture? Can you share specific examples how these values are demonstrated? And I think you mentioned one. But I want you to, and all the organizations, they have the values that they write on the wall. But I want you to speak from your heart, and I always say it's more important when I talk about a culture, something that is shared, and you're not taught. Let's talk about like national cultures, right? Or you're not taught this. You're born into it, and your parents and your people around you, they just teach you behaviors, what is in that space right and wrong. And then someone asks you, so what does it mean to be, I don't know, Kenyan, or it could be also a culture of what does it mean to be a doctor, what does it mean to be a NGO, for example, these days. So there's a culture of profession, there's a culture of groups, national cultures, and they show up in the behaviors. So if someone would ask me, Dominika, what does it mean to be Polish? Now I know because I'm a cultural trainer, so I learned. But I'm like, I don't know, like lots of food maybe. So it's really hard to say what does it mean to be, in this culture. It's easier from the outside. If I would bring it to you, one of the easiest ways to learn about your culture is that when you go somewhere else. You probably, when you're from Uganda and you go to Kenya, or you end up in the other part of the world, India, say, this is strange, like then you will see, yeah, at home we're doing like this. So this is how you would think about your values if someone would come to your organization and you have to explain. Listen, this is how we do things here. This is what you have to remember. I'll give you an example. In this work we're doing here with Joyce and all the coaches, we never talk about values in ourselves, but one of the key elements that we have, all of us coaches, is to be in this program, is that you have to have the heart in the right place. Joyce says, you don't need to know Africa, you have to have the heart in the right place. And then you have to love people development. The rest is going to sort out. Yeah? So if you think about your organization, what are your core values and how they show up from your perspective? Just to add here, because maybe if your value is being on time, I value to be on time. How does it show up? I come exactly at that time. If I value the sustainable development, for me, the nature is very important. For example, I engage in some activities around that. So this is the behavior. So think about both the value and the behavior. And sometimes it's easier to think from the behavior to the value, or sometimes some people prefer the other way around. Now I'm talking too much. So what is your third thought?
I don't know how I can bring it up, but the organization is based on a background of some spirituality, that also the Baha'i faith. So whatever we are doing, we are looking at it from that element, that giving some service of a spiritual nature, which is that bearing. And that's why wherever we have either meetings or whatever.
I like the level service, how do you say, service of spiritual nature, or like we bring in spiritual part in all we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Or the reliance on divine assistance.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We rely on the divine assistance. Okay.
Okay.
So, it's related to that. Again, like yesterday during our dinner, when we shared that because we are an inspired organization, you'll find that most of the values, in the organization are inspired by the writings of the Baha'i faith. So, for instance, in all activity, there is this principle that comes from the writing that everyone is created noble. So in every approach, if Kalenga is going to meet the community, it's in the approach that they know they are noble already, just like you approach king or something. So you approach the other person not as you that knows, but so there's that value that the other person is noble, I am noble. So you interact in that. So in all our discussions, in meetings, you approach those interactions with the principle that the other person is noble just as I am. Yeah. So that's one thing you'll see resonating within the management team, in the other teams, and even to the community, if the organization is to interact with the community.
Wow. It's really done. I love this. A noble mutual.
Nobility of human beings.
It's a beautiful word, this noble. We approach people. It doesn't. We can write. I'm not very. I do speak English, but if you're native English, you're gonna find me crazy English.
I think one of the beauties of having people from diverse language backgrounds is it also teaches you new ways of thinking about things because of the way the words are used and the intention behind them. So it's good that you're, I mean, for many people here, it's outside of myself, maybe English is probably not the first language. I think there are endless qualities and what do I say, values that we could emphasize, building on what some of the colleagues have started with. In addition to these, we could talk about, okay, this idea of mobility, how that connects then to this principle of universal participation, trying to ensure that all voices are heard, a recognition of the value of diverse experience and opinions. This core idea of, yes, we want to see voices all contributing and playing, and individuals playing a role, but we also want to see diverse experiences and opinions and not a reiteration of the same ideas. And then connected to that, with this idea of consultation, bringing these views together, there's another value is this principle of kind of detachment and humility. That one can feel strongly about something, and of course we will choose things that we think are best aligned with our goals. But we should approach it in the way that we don't assume that just because we are coming from this experience that we have the better insight. You may, it's not to say that you might not. It's not to say that just because, that we always assume that we don't, but it's to say that you can learn something from any interaction, even when you have a large amount of background that's informing your current perspective. There are still new ways of seeing things that only come through when you have exposure to many different perspectives and many different experiences. So I can add some things related to, what did I say? I said first universal participation. Yes.
Open-minded, but also I like that you also mentioned this, I understand what is attunement. So when you come in, you tune in to the environment. So you tune in, you have a lot of stuff with you, but then when you come in, you tune in to what is going to work best in this concrete community, in this situation. Is that what also what came through your
Yes, I think that let's see. I think you were focusing on maybe. Are you talking about the relevance to context, or how would you?
Yeah, it's like maybe you could use the word contextualizing, but contextualizing is to the material. But I think it's to you as a human that you come in and you are not, so fixated to this book, but you can say, out of this book, I think this is going to be the best move right now. Like you can tune in the moment. Maybe I just felt from you when you said it. I don't know if I have. So if I'm going to do that, it's not that I'm bored. I'm just looking at the watch.
It means like very aspirational.
Aspirational.
Which translates into excellence, trying to be
Yeah.
excellent.
So, for example, when we're looking at the work that we're doing in teacher education, it's one thing to say that I want to improve the classroom and maybe see that the students are having better relationships with the learners, or to see that the student performance is increasing. Those are aspects of the goal, but for us the goal is to create a transformed educational system where teachers are characterized by all these features, where the learners are characterized by these features, where the system is also invested. But at the same time, we recognize that in our humble learning process that we're not going to achieve it in one day, but we're also persistent. I think we can add persistence to that as well, because we say this, for us, Our teacher training program has now been going on for, we're in our 11th year of that project, like districts and larger scale. Whereas before, we were really trying to learn what does it take to create the type of teacher that we want, and how does that teacher then transform the school, and then how do those teachers transform an entire community. So we maintain these lofty aspirational goals. We recognize that it is a long journey, but we are persistent in that long journey.
And I think that's coming to mind related to what Joseph is describing is also that we have, which we're trying to work, that the world can become better, and we do have, not, and I don't mean we as in just the organization itself, but also like as people in general, that we do have the ability.
One question. When you do, I think you know, who is the oldest employee? You're the oldest employee? But now you're the, so when you bring in new people to the team, and you, of course you have some interviews or discussions and conversations, what is it that the person says that says, no, this person will never fit here? What is it that you know that there's like, you're not gonna fit?
We've
So-
been doing this recently, these interviews.
I'm just curious.
I think it comes along the opposite of some of these things. So someone who is, first of all, very rigid in their thinking,
Yep.
and a poor listener. From there, we can already tell that our team, across the organization, people like to be heard, they like to ask deep questions, and if someone lacks that capacity or desire to be challenged, to be, I think of recent, we've been talking about this, and when people are very lost in that type of environment, we know they're not going to fit. When they are very authoritative, that's another one. People in our organization will always speak to the fact that they, something distinct is the way that someone can approach any member of the organization, leadership roles, regardless of the position that you're in. Also just feeling like there's, not such a rigid hierarchy. So individuals who come in with kind of maybe a degree of, what did I call it? Let me say, something negative per se, but I was saying they were what? Authoritative. Overly authoritative, and maybe they treat others in a paternalistic way. They don't see, the valuable contributions of others because they're too proud or confident in their own ways of thinking. Those are things that, for us, really what we look for are people who are willing to learn, and you can describe all the different qualities, but we're looking for someone who's willing and able to learn and ask kind of big questions.
Nice. I like that because you get so many different things that we are good listeners. We are okay with ambiguity. We like low or org structures. I don't know like how to, yeah.
Yeah.
We like learning.
You can say also, people talked about, I think, it's like horizontal.
The organization is so flat. We have no titles, so like
Yeah.
no doctors, madam. So
Yeah.
the kids to the teacher says, they call you by name. They think Linda, or it's just completely to mom, not my son, but that you can have. So there's no absolutely, they don't feel any structures at all. And wherever they go to the world, they're figuring this. I mean, I feel so bad. I come here and everybody wants to carry stuff for me, do stuff for me. And I'm like, no, I can do that. No, we're gonna do. They bring me stuff. I'm like, I can bring myself. Okay. Thank you, Station. How do you know it takes? Does it mean that achieving your goals, or maybe being like, let's try to figure out what does it mean a successful leader for your organization? Not for you individually, because you might have a different idea, but yeah.
For me, when people do things without
Oh, you're the same.
Oh,
But you have written much nicer than me, so.
You can put previous struck motivated. Okay.
Self-driven leader, self-motivated leader, yeah?
I think this principle of learning stands out to me as someone who is able to learn from mistakes and is not paralyzed by mistakes.
Also, this thing of listening, someone who's, because as a leader, then it means that you have a team of other people. Takes into account the views of others and can communicate with others, can build unity. Actually, can build unity.
Also, I think that they have to have a strong understanding of vision. Otherwise, I don't know where they're leading people to.
Yeah, because it's really ties to what you said before. It's like
Strong understanding of the vision. This idea of how do you learn in a systematic way so that you're incrementally advancing and not just jumping from one priority to another, and it's not actually leading you in any particular direction.
You said also earlier on about humility, so I'll just add it here again. Some
humane.
Humane, yeah.
Nice. So there's more, but we're gonna. There's a lot. I know. So let's go to the next one. It's your. And we have. Reflect.
At some point, to
You will.
add it.
I can tell you what it is. It's about your goals. Number 5. How does your current organizational structure align with your and support your mission, goals, and strategic direction? So you mentioned one of the other boards that you are. It's a flat organization. Yeah, and so
I won't say we are completely flat,
not
but I will say that we have elements of horizontal.
okay. So or is it? Do you feel like the structure might be difficult sometimes? And you let me know if the question is too.
I think it's
clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
I'll let others share because otherwise
Yeah.
I'll fill the silence. So go ahead, Linda. You seem ready.
No, I'm also trying to think of any the organizational structure.
So
I would think the structure supports because within the structure there is an area the implementers direction on what they should be doing in their various roles. And of course, because of that, you'll find out different people doing specific lines of action. So I would think that structure, yeah.
So I'm gonna help just draw a little diagram because of maybe everyone's not had to think as much about the organogram. Then you can think of we have ED, then we have along here we have our leadership, and then we have here we have the different lines of action in the organization, and you can even consider teams, so there can be admin, agric, teacher training, community development, and then there's a level where this group meets for consultation. Then you have different members of these teams. Now, where I see alignment between our goals, missions, and directions, and our structure there is, first of all, this principle of consultation and collective participation is reflected in the fact that decisions tend to be made in these spaces where all of the different areas in the organization are represented. But then each of these teams is also given a fair degree of freedom, where these individuals try to kind of bring together these principles of consultation and collective planning, so that yes, while you would say, okay, organizationally, you would look at this as vertical, but the way they operate is that decisions or plans are made in a collective way. So while this individual might be given more freedom to set the goals, the coordinator for this team, they are not going to make these plans without consulting the teams.
Consensus.
And in most cases, it's actually what is the organizing kind of the compass you're thinking of, what's our compass here? It's the visions and the aims of the organization. So this is the mission. And so each of these teams is looking to this, to set that. And then it's this team which is now saying, oh, have you also considered these things? Have you considered these things? So when I think of the structure and whether it's aligned, I would say that the reason I view it to be aligned is because what drives each of these is each team having to ask itself the question, which we've been asking more in some of our recent capacity building spaces, which is what would it look like for this team to be aligned with this vision we have of an education for development approach where the individuals are driving the development process. So in agriculture, what does it mean to have an approach to development where farmers are more actively making decisions about what their needs are and what makes sense for their reality? For teachers, teacher training program, it's the same questions for the teacher, for the level of the school. And so we try to create spaces for everyone to ask these big questions, but then of course from the top we are also giving kind of seals of approval in a way, whether we feel that the questions have been considered deeply enough.
Just to, this is the team, right?
The one that's here, yeah.
Yeah. So the team. So maybe asking the questions now from the other angle. In what situations you felt the and because I can
You can read it on my face.
I can read on your face that there's like
I'm trying to walk away.
so you can go next.
I'll wait till later. Here's a pen for the one who wants to ask.
And there is because since you mentioned you thought about it so much, then
at times some things can be implemented with approval of the governing bodies and so what you're going to do.
so,
You have to wait. So of course it may affect.
so maybe not the structure but the decision process,
Yeah.
decision making process.
Or you have the structure. Okay, but somehow.
Yeah, the approvals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that there's a hierarchy and the next person has not provided approval. Maybe sometimes it's also at the level of, because as we were explaining, it's like we're thinking of things also as a team. And it's not slowing down the process in like a way that things will never happen. It's just also, as you're saying, the decision making and consulting also has value, but maybe also if tasks are not clearly assigned, then because we can all do the thing, then it's easy to feel, oh, maybe the other person will be doing it, the other person, let's hear from this person, let's hear from that person as
Okay.
well.
So it's more maybe perhaps not the structure itself, but role definition or some decision make. Who is the decision maker and stuff.
So the process of consultation is we arrive at you arrive at a decision, which in the end is true, which eventually, if it was not true, can be consulted about again and you arrive at a more realistic decision. But because the process itself takes some time, so you as an individual, you have to learn to be patient. So that structure is a very consultative structure. So it tests all our different Enneagram
So I'll just
personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit consultative decision making process. It's gonna write it down because it's a little bit different thing, but it's related. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was gonna say that a process like or a system like this or a structure like this really depends on the leadership capacity of all the different individuals. Because if you're given a fair degree of freedom to operationalize these plans, if you don't have the right qualities, if you don't have a strong enough understanding of the vision, it will delay a lot of activity, the success of a lot of plans. So.
Thank you. All right. Yeah? Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Do it in the text.
Oh, you didn't have anything to add there?
It has been mentioned, yeah. Because sometimes, staff want quick responses to their demands. So if they forget that actually it's not a one-man's decision, because you have to consult even as a leadership team. So sometimes they would write to one member of the leadership and they expect to get instant response. Then, but they have to wait until meet and consult.
Yeah. So it's this approval process going that this might be slowing down. I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna write it like this. Nice. And I know you're gonna ask me about the second one, but for the more tricky ones. So reflecting on the past year, what would you identify as your organization's key strengths? So what are your gifts? And we know that it's easier to find what is not good enough, but it's what is really your thing that you are so good at, like that you can really be proud of, and it could be a skill, it could be a cultural value that you have. What are you? Yeah, what are your strengths as as this group, as an organization? As your organization, not organization, because you might have other strengths as group, but as your organization, what's your biggest thing?
One of the things that I think back to the last year is the ability to diagnose capacity building gaps, and I guess just begin to address them, but just the ability to see where there's need to do more, to do better is one thing. Both at the level of the organization, but also within the various lines of action in the communities that you're working with. So that's one.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Diagnosing capacity, individual and institutional capacity gaps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So it's
In British America. I don't know if them.
actually S is used in the British usually, or use a Z.
Because you said you've been operating for 11 years.
The organization has been
18.
around for 18 years.
18 years. So there is something there that throughout this year that kept you staying so long. People trust you, communities trust you. that you've been successful? Because 18 years, that's a lot of, you know.
I think it goes back to the culture
Culture is your
and
strength.
how that culture is built.
Yeah.
Or one thing, I think, because we operate on a certain level, really agree about
Mm-hmm.
shapes the culture, and I think that's the strength.
Lovely. Yep. You don't know that we're practicing the co-creation.
I don't know if
It's the team one. Against
operating under a framework which the team agrees upon. We have or believes agrees upon slash believes. Is that the spelling of
No.
believes?
F believes.
Believes in
They remove VES.
Okay.
Remove? No.
No.
Believes.
I like
The
that.
team
No,
believes
no.
in.
Believes.
Believes.
Believes in.
Yeah, believes
the
in.
verb, not the.
Is it an E first or an I first?
It was
Ah,
just K.
believes in. Ah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I think connected to these points also is just, many would not see this necessarily as a strength, but I think that we have a very rich and resilient, comprehensive program which informs our culture, our framework, for how we, for all of our actions. So it's a very rich educational program which is at the heart of our success. And and because we are continuously finding new ways to learn from the same content and to use it in more meaningful ways over time. Yeah, I would say educational program. Which is the one we inherited from the organization in South America.
That's it.
The other
Which
strength
here too.
that I've seen over the capacity to utilize the funds for the work that they were meant, to be utilized. I've seen that as a strength of KIMANYA. Yeah, you don't.
Trust to the.
I don't know how to put it.
Your
Effective.
But there's this, effective, but also there's when you mention trust, because
Yeah, it's like
Effective utilization of resources.
exactly,
yeah, I don't know if it's just
Judicious use of
Yeah,
funds.
Judicious.
yeah.
This is one of the strengths. For many years I've relied on Immersion to tell me when the amounts are appropriate, which is something he knows from his experience. I don't know if we said this in other places, but maybe we could say it's not as true, but everyone members have their strengths. I would say that we have many staff members who have, so that means like for Alenga's case, for example, he has worked from, he knows what it's like to work at the level of basically most of the people in the organization. And there are many people who have gone through that as well. There are a few who have come in without background in the organization, but many of them were once maybe community volunteers, then they were working as a full-time in some role, then they were coordinating. So I think it is a real strength that people know what it's like to be in the positions of others when they're in positions of leadership.
It's like
Should we say
wisdom.
low turnover, enhanced institutional capacities?
Yeah, we could say.
And it's true that it shows up as a low turnover.
More to what is.
Yeah,
saying
I think
that-
those points are valid. For me, I was
Yeah.
saying there's a degree of empathy that exists when
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
know what it's like to be in other positions. And I know, for example, when I came in, I often point to the fact that when I joined the organization, I was just there outside of the organization as a PhD researcher, and I was a colleague of Kalenga's for many years. So when I came into a position of authority, I knew Kalenga's reality better than many. And I immediately knew what are things that need to change about the organization now that I have some, and their work is like. And so I would say that the institutional, long institutional knowledge is part of it, but also it's about having staff that with diverse experience in the organization that leads to kind of more empathy towards various roles.
I'm sorry, it doesn't. What did you say?
Low turnover and empathy. This less low turnover allows for, but it actually gives more empathy to the newcomers.
Is that an H?
A, the H is with the TH.
I'm really bad in spelling. I'm getting really worried now. You're good.
Are you used to typing in autocorrect?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're autocorrecting.
No, it's
No
okay.
space.
Do you feel ready to move on?
Sure.
We have, and I'll do it, we're just going to take 5 minutes on this. And we have to mention maybe the three the most important ones. If you wake up at night, what is it that you would write?
Is it for a year or it looks like it's just a 1 year?
And it says 24, I think it's 25. Let's say, I mean, it can go, because maybe you have something that is spanning longer than one year, but maybe it could be, you could pick. Do you want to have something on the short term, like initiative that lasts this year, or you want to have something that you have for 3 years? Or?
No, I would just think that what's useful about, even if it's 1 or 2 or whatever, is distinguishing the goals and strategic objectives from the mission, because mission is very
Yeah.
broad and these are much more concrete.
Yes. So this is something exactly. But in 25, if you work like this,
Yeah.
so what is it that you would like to achieve in 2025? What is it that you would consider if we do these things, we would achieve our goals? We would be not successful because there's any delivering, but we would feel like we've done what we wanted to do. What are these things? For 2025, 3 the most important ones.
I'm not trying to organize them by importance. Idea that in the way they're operating, it's clear that what one is working towards, the kind of steps they're taking, they're reflecting, they're coming back to it. So at the level of the individual, of the individuals in the organization, including in relation to how they're working with the population they're serving. So that's one thing I'm thinking for this year.
Yeah, I think so. Linda is speaking specifically to capacity building stuff, capacity building, and you can think of it more broadly as the goal is to help the staff move more towards the vision of a protagonist of development, which is kind of a core aim that we have as an organization. How do we manifest what we want to see in the community first within our staff. But the core theme that's the priority for this year in terms of capacity building is this capacity for learning systematically through action research. So that is one of the core objectives that we've had for the year.
And if that would be something, how would you know you're done with this?
Done is, I don't know that you could, whether we see progress, we
You see
can say
progress.
whether we see progress.
Okay.
We can see the progress manifest in the way that the staff are carrying out their work.
Okay.
So, for example, one thing that we've talked to many of the teams about is strategic planning. So we see it reflected in the strategic plans they're making, whether they're able to create a termly plan that aligns with a vision that they can clearly articulate, and then how they adapt to their plans over the course of the year based on experience. Those are all elements of learning through action research that been doing capacity building work around, and so when we see that reflected in their practice, that's when we have a sense that they are progressing.
Okay. So how would you say, see progress in?
We can say in staff capacity for learning systematically through action research.
Through.
Action research. Are there some other cross-cutting themes across the lines of action that is? I'm asking one of the program coordinators. If you're thinking about your goals in agriculture, is there a way we can align them with some of the goals we've identified for PSA and teacher training?
I don't know how to put this, families or I don't know how to be scientific in the way they do things. I don't know how to put it.
So,
I was thinking that this one is
Think
carrying
about-
across
cuts
not
across.
just the staff members, but also what our staff members are also hoping to do with the community members that we're working with.
Yeah.
so one way I was thinking about slightly generalizing one of your goals, Kalenga, for agriculture in a way that connects to the other teams. In a way, we are trying to, how can I say it? We're trying to, the interests of the stakeholders or beneficiaries or whatever. So we're talking about the farmers and what the program is offering, the educational program is offering. So, for example, if we're looking concretely to your team, it's this issue of the scientific capacity of the farmers. If we're looking to teacher training, we're trying to say, how do these teachers become, create these networks where they are working with one another and learning to live together in a collective way. So, I mean, it's easy for us to say the individual, very small level goals, but I don't know that they are quite the same as this more strategic level. So it's hard to balance between the overly specific and the more general. But so, like, if I was to be a little more specific for the teacher training program, we know that one of our objectives for the year is to begin our efforts to scale the teacher training program through a number of activities. One being the training and collaboration with the teacher training colleges. Another one being creating workshops for other educational organizations, especially within the Relay network, to have a closer exposure and deeper understanding of our teacher training program. So we have workshops for like-minded organizations.
So it's to do workshops, so provide workshops.
To provide workshops,
Yeah. So we have them there. Provide workshops for
like-minded organizations to
like-minded.
more closely explore our program.
There's another blue one here.
I think it's just the angle.
I think I'm the.
Oh.
When you write with the pen down, the ink goes the wrong way. You have to write.
I have to write nicer.
And then the other one was to integrate our programs into the national and regional systems.
To national and regional.
Institutions. No, it's fine. And regional institutions.
Systems. Right?
Yeah,
Or only.
that's fine. I think more concretely, it's institutions. That's specifically for the teacher training.
I think we're gonna stop here,
That's
team. Not because I don't want to hear more, but because we have a lot. We just done the half of the
Yeah,
stuff.
fine.
Are you still alive? Or do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since I see that you're sitting, but maybe let's get a chairs and we're gonna sit around here. Yeah. About your strengths, which is great because I think this is something I want you to take with you always. And no matter if we talk about organization, teams, and individuals, just keep in mind about your strengths. Yeah. So the follow-up question is, as we talk, because we are talking about continuous development, there's always a question: what is it right now, in the context I am today, in the problems I am facing today as an organization? What is it that we would like to develop so that we could respond better to the needs that we have today? And that is the question: is what areas present the greatest opportunities for growth and improvement moving forward? So what is it that you need to develop as an organization in order to respond better even to the needs that you have, that you are, to your mission? What is it you need to build on your strengths that you have already have? Maybe there's building on your strengths that you have today, or maybe there are other parts that you would like to develop. And it could be from very like, it could be some, when we say development, it's not something that you can go to school and learn. If you would say, we need to be better in, we want to be better in agriculture of the beetroot. Sorry, I'm just deflecting. I would say, well, you can go to school and learn it. But I'm talking about development thing, something that will actually help you to some personal skill, some skill of the organization, some strength. So I'll let you brainstorm, but if you just, what first thing comes to your mind? What are the areas do you feel like you would like to develop more, or are you? I don't want to use the word weakness because it's not the right word, but they are not your. That sometimes are slowing you down in what you want to do. And it could be on any of these, like, because of course organizations is individuals, is teams, it's connections to the community, so it could be on different levels, yeah?
I don't know if this is, one thing I was thinking about was reflecting from the evaluation meetings or reflection meetings we had with all the staff last year. And one key theme the staff wanted is to develop certain skills to enable them be better at writing reports. And I think that management or the leadership team feels is something we all need to grow up with so that we can first, for instance, produce certain reports and new reports. So, don't know.
Yeah.
My mind is still on the one we wrote there as one of the primary goals for 2025, just because it encompasses also quite a lot, but also in a way that process that allows for one to be responsive to the circumstances at hand of the someone said about like aligning our program approach and design to the needs. It encompasses that too. It also encompasses like this idea of reflecting and being able to articulate what is being learned, even just like the activities and the experience, and being able to write, as Lenny was saying, or like research and understand things. For instance, if it's working with teachers, you're also trying to understand like more what is like the teachers' experience themselves, what is like this educational landscape within the country and the challenges they face. So I keep going back to this one of learning systematically through action research.
Staff capacity.
So what is it? So is it about the team members to being better in?
You could talk about it as strategic planning, I think is one way, organizational thinking. So the idea is that you have a broad set of responsibilities or objectives for your team. So someone in the teacher training says, okay, my goal is to carry out a year-long training, and there are all these different parts. Or a separate member of the team says, my goal is to learn more about what teachers have been doing in this particular area, like creating networks or dealing with issues of gender. And the challenge they have is the more freedom they get, the less creating constructive change. So if you tell them, okay, I want you to learn about one question we have asked our teacher trainers. Over the past 10 years, you've trained 2,000 teachers. And those 2,000 teachers are operating to an extent at the level of their classroom and maybe to a level of bringing these ideas into changing their schools. But what does it take to work with those thousands of teachers to actually transform the whole of how education is approached and thought about at the level of the city itself? And so that requires multiple steps. And how do they actually think about that without us telling them, this is what you're supposed to do? These are the steps you should take to lead towards that goal. How do we build in them a capacity to make strategic plans and test whether they're moving in that direction?
Yeah, so it's building strategic thinking. So within your roles, is how do we help? I don't know if it's a good one, but the other on the in a larger scope.
Yes, towards a larger goal.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like, if you think about, okay, we can talk about it this way. If a leader's job, traditionally, is to identify a challenge, describe it, and strategize about how to address it, we're asking, how do we build that capacity in lower levels of individuals within the organization? So it's not a leadership team that does it and then everyone implements. But how do you have the members of the teacher training team, each on their own, develop that leadership capacity to be devising a plan that is very thoughtful and has a clear vision, but then requires steps and testing and refinement. How do we pass on more responsibility to these other members within our organization for strategic planning?
Yeah. Okay. So develop leadership capacity to think in systems. I think I don't know.
Among
Throughout
members,
the-
throughout the organization.
Yeah. So this is actually for the organization. Now we're looking for that. Because what you want to achieve as a group, as your team, is I'm thinking about this one.
It's encompassed.
Yeah, is it exactly what is it? Because we talked about the writing report skill. Is it because of their fear, or is it because of what makes them?
It's their
Fine,
academic
Hmm?
and academic background and technical skills that they may not have received, some of them. But others who have it, it's also about having a deeper understanding of what these reports are for and what they should
Exactly.
prioritize.
So this is what I wanted to do. Is what is that? And you say this deeper, and I think it links actually to that one.
Yeah, it's very connected.
Yeah. Have deeper understanding of the of
It's
how,
an organizational mission.
yeah. Actually, maybe they understand the mission, but how does it connect? Like connecting
Of how to
of the
operationalize the
of the mission and how did you write it? And
How to operationalize it.
and yeah, how to operationalize it. I'm gonna think about it. Connected to mission, I think. What else do you think?
We could, yeah. I was connecting it, or thinking about the last one that I added there after we left that paper, where I said increasing visibility of our work. I think more specifically what we are trying to improve upon is bringing in more people from outside of the organization to understand the complexity of the work that we're trying to accomplish. And what that we've often seen is that we can expose people to what we're doing, but it's in a very superficial way. So if like our goal is to say, how do you create these, use education to create like this holistic development process that involves people in becoming more at the center of choosing what they want to do for their own development. That conversation is much more complex and it takes time. And so what we're trying to learn is how can we develop our capacity to help or to like create more potential collaborators through having people who better understand the work that we're engaged in.
But is it also because is there something around the communication? How the
Communication is part of it.
you know?
But for example, we've tried, for example, to hire individuals who have some kind of background in communication, saying, how can we talk about this? And they want us to simplify. And we're saying, well, we're not interested in this superficial description of the work, because then it sounds like what everyone is doing. What we want is people who have a more accurate understanding of what we're doing, and then through that to potentially find these new collaborators. So for example, we've had another really organization in Uganda in our network that have attended some of our workshops, presentations, come to visit the organization, and now they want to learn and potentially replicate the teacher training program that we're doing. And so we're saying, how do we, it can involve communication, but how do we help more people understand the work that we're doing towards a goal of increasing the collaborators that we have in the country, like sincere collaborators. So that can be through, you know, the films that you produce about the work, that can be through workshops that you run, that can be through presentations that you, and just kind of like even the use of the media and creating more awareness about the work.
But the ultimate goal is that
is to increase the number of collaborators that we have to achieve our goals.
And the collaborators, who do you, is it like, you mean employees or you mean other organizations?
It can be other organizations, can be government partners, institutions.
So increase number of organizations, and then you mentioned it would be through
Through media, through film, through workshops.
I would say, if I write communication channel is to,
You can say through rich communications. I just don't want to
Because-
oversimplify, and then someone thinks that it's just that, oh, you put it on your website.
because this is something I'm learning, like I'm learning about you, there's this, and it shines through so much, there's this depth.
Yes.
In everything you do, in everything you say, and like when you talk, the depth is very important.
Yes.
Yeah? Just an observation I wanted to share with you. And even the way you are, like really, you're so deep today. And yesterday, like the first thing I mentioned about you, I noticed the depth you have in you. The way you speak, the way you express yourself, there is this depth. So I underline this rich because I feel this is very important for you. Yeah? And I don't know if it's for the organization, but since you're the leaders, I would, and this is important for this group, it just shines through all of you. I will just underline this. So team, we have to pick one area that you really would like, because the question would be, first we have to choose which of these two is more important for you right now. If we focus on that, would this be, which of these two, is it more to focus on develop leadership capacity, or is it this? And when we're going to work in the program, it's not that we're going to work on the strategic program of this, but what I'm going to ask you is, what do you as a group need to develop to achieve that? That will be the topic. Yeah? Or you say, what is it in you? Because this is, all of these things are important for you, but somehow there's something in you that we're just talking about it, that you've tried different things. So what is it that we need to develop? But first, I would like you to think about which of these two topics would be more important for you right now to focus on.
I would also pose maybe an alternate question, because I think they're both important, but an alternate question is which one is more feasible for this type of, to think about it in the way that we're going to be thinking about, because the first one might be so broad and complex that maybe it's not as easy to operationalize, but maybe we just take an element of it. It's fine. I think both of them are going to be huge priorities, because we're looking, essentially what it's telling you is we're looking internally at how do we become more effective at achieving our goals, and then externally, how do we increase the number of people that we are working with so that we can achieve those goals. So it's two directions, but both important.
Yeah. So we will not, now maybe this could be the tricky part.
Yes.
This is actually we're not gonna write any program for this. It could be that we're we're gonna do like that. Let's take an example of this is your why. This is gonna be one of these things will be your why. Why and the topic. And the topic is be better in something so that. So for example, would be why is that would be we want our organization to be better in this. We want our staff to have this systemic thinking, because this would bring more impact on the organization, on the communities. So what do you need to do be better at? Do we need to be better in speaking to them, or do we need to be better in being more clear in our expectations, or do we need to be more better listeners? Or so I think that since you are remember we talked about that, you are the instrument of change.
For the kids,
Yes. So there's something. So the question would be, what is it that you need to develop as this group to achieve that will help you to be that organization be better in that, you know? Do you see the sort of the links? But I think that's why I think it's the most important thing like right now is to choose what is the area that you would think like in just today where you are as an organization, which of these two things would be more. Because we're going to develop, during the coaching program, we're going to develop you as a team. And the organizational transformation plan we're going to talk about is the next level.
Sure.
Yeah? So which of these two topics you feel like is more important for you right now?
I will say the first one is sequentially would be more of a priority, because what you learn in the first one will inform the second.
Okay, because they're linked together, right? Develop leadership capacity to think systems for org, have deeper understanding of the mission and how to operationalize it connected to the mission. Okay, so let's we're gonna clean it. Yeah? So this is what you want. So what is a you? We as KIMANYA leadership team, we want to be better in so that this will happen. Yeah? So when you think about it, because what is it that you have tried so far? There are many things probably that you have tried to achieve that. What have you tried so far to do? You mentioned, you mentioned here about you had a communication person, but what have you tried in this area that might have worked, might not have worked so well?
We have implemented a system for like planning and reporting.
Schedule,
initially.
yeah, schedule and the system.
Where people think about like what the plans are for the year and break it down to terms, the month, to week, and also are noting down the things that they're learning and like writing things, say at the end of the week, then thinking about like where at the end of the month, what are the things that came up in that month. So there's that initially, or that kind of system which is still running. And then there's at some point, at least with one of the teams, actually it was then later on with all of the other teams, like just designing a template that could help with thinking about what is something that you're trying to work towards to, why, what steps would you take. And that was sort of like informal, there was a template created. And maybe now more recently, studying a book, a document that is, well, let me say book because document could mean a page or two to others, but a book that is with the goal of like developing related capacities for this, you call the thinking in terms of system, related capacities, but also understanding what that is. And also having conversations at the level of the core team, the next sort of like tier, more broadly about what it could look like for each of the teams.
So what, through this, when you implemented, what were the learnings? What worked and what didn't work in this? What did you learn when you did this?
So
What have you noticed?
what we have slowly observed through these efforts are particular, I was describing one of the earliest stage interventions we had was to create a structure for how we want to be reporting as an organization according to our different teams. So we're saying that we're going to have within the team, individual team members are having monthly reports and they're creating weekly notes that contribute to a monthly report. Then as a whole team, they produce a termly or quarterly report. And then what should those reports be talking about? Within the year, they're setting goals, but they're also identifying key objects that they want to learn about. And so all these kind of pieces were done. And then we stepped back. And then we found in practice that things weren't going that direction. They worked to create the objects of learning. They were trying to keep the schedule, but everything would still come late, and the reports that were generated were not really rich enough, and they weren't leading to strategic plans that were aimed at achieving these goals. So what we began to observe is that there were certain skills, like how do I even create a plan? What are the elements of that plan? And we would try to create templates and things for people. What are the elements of a report? What are the elements of the plan? And I think over time we've been trying to be more concrete in the expectation of these different pieces, but also recognizing that maybe there's just not, for some team members, a foundation in even how do I summarize my ideas. They can write their experiences, their activities, and it's very broad in general, but they don't have a foundation in being able to glean what are the, what's the summary of all of these activities.
So I think I think what you actually need, summarize that, is what you're trying to achieve actually is to help that they connect their actions, because what I'm hearing from it is that people cannot really connect their actions to the strategic, to the mission. Like they have, they do stuff here, they have these concrete actions, but there are these missions, and then they just don't know how to fully connect it.
I think
Is that the thing?
connecting it in a written form, verbally, that's where the strength has always been.
Yes.
But
Okay.
in a written form, making those connections has always been difficult.
Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe like connecting daily operations to this, in writing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, or is it? Because I'm so you would, okay, you would probably have to do something so that people can, so that our leaders can express themselves, or would it be connect and express, maybe connect daily actions to organizational mission. In writing, is that evident? So let me just leave it like this. We're gonna refine it. We keep on refining. So what is it that you need to be better? Like, and I think there's something linked to your depth. What would allow you that these people will be better in that?
I think there needs to be more modeling of our expectations at the leadership level. So, for example, in terms of the type of reports, the type of plans that we're expecting, we're able to maybe get by without creating the same level of documentation as we would expect from those who we need to understand in order to write reports. So part of it, I think, is they need to see in our example in our work, clear examples of what we're expecting of them. We also need to be better at diagnosing what are the gaps that are stopping them from producing the type of results that we want to see.
What is it about here? What is it that because I feel like here, if I translate to here, we need to be better as a leadership team to set clear expectations. Or is it about, because I'm also thinking, you help me, now I'm just offering, I don't know if it's, is it about also accepting, or one thing that comes to my mind is one is to be more, maybe be better in setting expectations, or maybe also being more clear in communication to them on expectations. Because are the expectations missing, or is it the communication expectations, or
I think what we hear most often from them, let's say they know that they're supposed to write the report, but what they're missing is two pieces. One is examples, illustrations of the type of thing that you want them to produce. And two is feedback, like the consistent feedback to get them to achieve that goal. So you told me you want the report to have all these elements. I've written the report. Now they need the feedback to say that you've done okay here, but you need to build up this part. You weren't very clear on this part. Like that iterative process of feedback needs to improve at the level of leadership to the individuals, but also giving not clear communication, but an illustration in the form of samples of what it is that you want them to produce.
So giving better, setting better structures, or But I was wondering. And I'm going to use, if I were to use it, so don't is it something that I just had this feeling, and I don't know, Tim, I'm always guessing and doing hypothesis, something around to be more clear in the way you communicate, because it can be very. Is it that the teams, they understand the big things, but then they actually because when you write, you have to be very clear. You have to connect this one to this one. So when you speak, you can speak very, very on a fluffy level. But then when you have to write, you have to be very, yeah. So do you feel like that there is that they're missing from you this clear, like, as you say, visualizations or clear sort of, okay, this is the mission, but what exactly are the points, or what could it be? Is it the way you communicate that we should focus on? Or the way you construct, maybe be better in constructing structures, creating structures for the team so they can be better? Is it the structures or is it the communication on your side? Or the feedback, being better in feedbacking, as you mentioned, giving feedback to them? Or working iteratively together?
I would say more the last two.
Giving
Feedback and iteratively working
Mhm.
together.
feedback. So, as a KIMANYA leadership team, we want to be better in giving feedback and work iteratively so that our leaders can connect daily actions to organizational missions. What are we missing here? Oh, I should write mine. Can you write it? Okay. We want to be better in giving feedback and working iteratively so that our leaders can connect daily actions to organizational missions. Maybe our leaders can...
I'm not getting exactly because now, if this at the level of the leadership team and then again comes back to our leaders.
So when we're saying leaders here, we're talking about our team members.
The team members.
This is you, and this is the structure, the four,
This is all of the staff in the organization. It's not
Yeah.
even just the coordinators.
and
So basically everything below, every program's position below coordination.
so who writes this report?
So there are reports produced by coordinators and individual team members.
So shall we write team members or?
Team members.
Yeah, team members, okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Because we were saying we want them to also become like leaders, so that's why we were using the leader language again.
Maybe that's the actual thing, that's what we want them to do. Yeah, but this is, no, it's good, now I'm getting it, okay. The why is, we want everyone to be a leader.
That's
Yeah.
basically it.
This is what you want.
So I want to maybe I'll try to be brief in illustrating to you what the organization is trying to achieve and how it is manifest in our teacher training program. So going back to the very beginning, the goal of the organization is that we want to move from an approach to development where a teacher is told that in order to be a better teacher, you need to do A, B, C, D, which some experts, maybe it's the Curriculum Development Center, maybe it's an NGO, maybe it's the academia. And they say that teachers are lacking in these three things. So we tell you this is what you need to do better. We design the strategies for you, and then we carry out the workshop and tell you that all you need to do to be better is to follow through on the steps that we provide. So that's how things are at present. And what we're trying to get to is a place where the teacher and then even the learner say learning to think like that. But the way that we believe it's achieved is essentially by different levels developing that kind of capacity to learn that way, and then going down different stages. So first, our organization's leadership has to be able to think like that and learn like that. Then they have to train their coordinators to operate like that. Then our coordinators have to help train the staff, and then the staff help the teachers, then the teachers help the learners. So that's what we're talking about when we're saying take that leadership, what our view of a leader is, and bring it down is that everyone has to develop that, and it can't be at any of those levels that we adopt this paternalistic development approach, which is that we tell you what you're doing wrong. Instead, we focus on what you need to develop to be more independent and have more capacity to problem solve on your own.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to.
And I love this because the key thing, what is that you need to develop mission? Or do they need to be better in...
Right now, we're saying they need some specific skill sets that they do not have, which Linda had been highlighting. One that we've been prioritizing is around learning through action research. So that is one skill set. We could break down what that means, but the idea is that to be more scientific. We talk about it as being a little more scientific in how you're learning and less, I don't know, Kalinga, if you have thoughts. Linda, Lenny.
What are you saying? If we as leaders are better at giving feedback and working iteratively,
Our team members, what will this allow your team members to do? That will allow them to be a better leader.
I see it as that they will develop core competencies that are required of leaders, which is being able to have a vision, being able to create plans to achieve that vision, and being able to assess the effectiveness of your efforts.
Yeah, I
What's
think...
coming to mind is what is written there in the first bullet, develop leadership capacity to think in systems throughout the organization. So if we do
Virtual
that,
think systematic.
It could
then
be that...
we're helping them to be able to do that, and to develop that capacity.
Does anyone have it? Yeah.
Green.
Yeah.
I think the blues are better than the green.
So, but actually, as Linda is saying, this one we could actually bring in here.
Yeah.
Or on this one. Do you have the blue one?
But I would adapt it maybe to say to think and act.
There's a Thank you.
Systematically.
It becomes nicely here. I need to have more of these. We can write it nicely here.
I got lost with the why,
Okay,
because
yeah.
at the beginning,
This is the why. I think the ultimate goal that you want to do is we want everyone to be a leader.
Why or what? Maybe you're curious the why.
This,
Maybe you're thinking the question is what do we want,
yeah,
not why do we want.
yeah, exactly. Let me do that. But then,
Is that what you meant, Kalin, or what was your question about the why?
no, because at first we are saying, why do you want to develop leadership capacity to think in systems throughout the organization? Why? Why do you want that?
it's true.
I
This
think
one we
right
want-
now she's just asking us, instead of why, she's asking us what is it that we want. And that's why our answer was, we want to develop that capacity for people to
So here it would be like,
be leaders.
I think that the way it goes is that what is that you, and I will write you in a leadership team, what is it that you need to develop so it allows you, so that will help your team members to do something that will allow them to be better leaders, that they are all leaders in systems. And for some, in something, so they're lacking that thing. And you as a team have probably tried some certain things. Would that help? Would that be the key thing that would allow them to be, to develop this capacity?
Right now, yes.
Yeah? So what is your, let's keep this. We have a nice topic for the moment. We can always remind. We as a leadership team, we want to be better in giving feedback and working iteratively so that our team members can develop leadership capacity to think in systems throughout the organization. So, in what way today you are giving feedback? What is your feedback structure?
So, no, I was just going to say the feedback was very closely connected to it's a continuous feedback. Maybe we could say continuous feedback, and working iteratively, because it's not like they get no feedback, but it has to keep coming and be more precise in order for them to achieve the specific outcome.
More frequent feedback, so having these processes and so that the teams can be, yeah.
Yeah. And also this part of what we said is relatively, but also at some point Joseph had said giving illustrative samples, because you might give feedback also in speaking verbally. And maybe at the time it's sort of clear, but not until like you've illustrated exactly what it looks like does it become like a shared understanding that people can have even a month after 2 months, I think the long term.
There's something along what you said. I think it's something around to become a more learning organization. You know, like learning not only from, so you learn from getting feedback, but also learning from your peers. Could be feedback from your peers. So create a culture of learning, and both the feedback culture, but also learning culture. Because feedback allows you to grow, right?
Yeah, I think where we see ourselves as an organization is that culture exists. It's very strong in the organization. However, it's verbal.
Yeah.
So people will have very meaningful conversations, develop some kind of clarity about what's expected. But then translating that to concrete plans or translating it to a report, that's where the gap exists. And so we're trying to ensure that the written arm of the learning process is as concrete as the systems and the culture and the willingness to learn from each other. Because all that is very strong and is not lacking. But left to its own devices, it doesn't manifest in things that we can easily communicate. That is representative of all that's happening.
Yeah. So, document. So it feels like, as you say, it's not about the culture. It's about the developing practices and like.
We talk about it as the professional skills that are not, that don't currently exist to complement the culture that does exist.
Yeah. Do you like writing reports?
No. You can probably guess.
Do you? Because the reason why I'm asking is that and there's no judgment, but very often you have this you adjust to your leaders, right? So that's why I'm asking is that there's something that you are doing in the way you are doing that trickles down to them, and I'm wondering, you're saying this giving feedback, well, maybe it's this formal giving, like, it's not about that you don't give feedback, but maybe this formalized way of giving feedback. There's something about this writing that.
Yes, but formal, again, you can have a discussion. We have a meeting, we'll break down, we'll give the example. So for example, I want a team to be able to, there's a team in the teacher training group. Their goal is to identify a research question, and then so they say that we've trained now these 2,000 teachers. A number of them are thinking about what are the particular challenges related to girls. And so someone says that I'm really interested to see what have we learned from this population and how can it be shared with others. So I'll sit with them, create a template for doing this, and then say, okay, what's your research question? Okay, now what are the reasons you've identified this as a question? What do you currently know about this area? And now what are the steps you're going to take over the next 3 months to learn about this? So they've gotten very concrete feedback, but then when they start doing it, the iterative and continuous aspect is not as strong, because now they do it and have they received feedback to say, well, okay, you were okay in this aspect, but your research question made sense, your justifications made sense, your plans didn't seem to align. So you put a lot of time for this activity, which maybe doesn't take that much time. Maybe you even created strong plans, but then in practice, you didn't carry out the tasks on the timeline that you had set. So they need that kind of continuous support in going through those other elements. Because what happens is at the end of 3 months, we're like, okay, where's your report? And they're like, oh, well, I've got this here and that there. So they planned it out, they have some understanding, but they can't write those things on a piece of paper to explain what it is. If you ask them, they'll tell you everything that's happened. And that's why we're saying there's like technical things. Is there typings? Are there typing skills? A lot of the people that came into the organization came in from our community development work. So they don't have all of them strong academic skills. But their other aspects of their work are very concrete. This learning culture, the capacity to reflect on what it is that they're doing, being clear about the mission, how it connects to their practice. Those things they can all do. But the reason we highlighted originally the report writing is because it's very technical, but we're trying to learn how do we develop that technical skills, those technical skills in practice where it's lacking.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have to, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start with something. I think, as you say, this is something that it's definitely, and for the moment we're clear about it. I think we are very clear about this. And I think we need to just figure out, for the moment you as a team, you have to be better in giving feedback and work interactively so that they can develop capacity to think in systems throughout the organization. And the way you approach it today, this topic is, it's not regular feedback, it's one-off and timely. And tomorrow, what you want to be better in is to be more systematic. Yeah? I know you're. But I would like you to reflect. So I think we're going to stop now. I think we have enough for now. And I'm going to write it down nicely. It doesn't look nice. And tomorrow I'll come up with something. But there's something about to reflect on this. What is it that I do that I cannot advance, that stops me from, that these guys are not getting better in that? Is it because I am not systematic? Is it because I'm not giving them enough time? Is it because I'm not clear what they need? Or is it because I just come to them with clear questions and I should be maybe more figuring out how they come up with these questions, so they actually come up with this thing, you know? So just reflect on that, but I think we have something to start with, and I'm gonna craft a coaching program based on that, but tomorrow we're gonna refine it. But I think I will let you, and I love your depth, so there's something that's gonna come up tomorrow from that, I know, but it's really beautiful, and I think that there's just, yeah, and the way you operate with your communities, as you say, we want leaders to, we want everyone to be a leader. And what do we do so that our team members become the leaders? That they just feel that they are empowered, they have what they need, you know? Yeah. You're still alive?
Yeah.
For what capacity? What skills do we need as the leadership team to help these other people to become leaders?
And sometimes, as we're here, it's not about like, if someone say, I want to become the president, okay? That's not a topic. What is that you need to develop in you to become a president? Maybe to be better in speaking. Maybe it's better communicating to the audience. So think about it from that capacity, that skill, not a skill that you can learn in school. Because you can teach them how to write a report. You know, you can find a way. But there's something different that is missing that stops them from being better in you. And I think it could be something like, I think you have already a little bit, it could be around, you know, this being more systematic or Yeah, I don't know, but I will think about it, and you also think about it. But I think for the moment we're good. Are you enjoying this process?
Yeah. Interesting, I think.
So tell you what's gonna happen tomorrow, because I think tomorrow is the more fun part. Because I'll try to create a program for you based on that, and I'm gonna create a metaphors for you. A metaphor is how you approach the topic today, and how you could approach it tomorrow, so that you can achieve your goal. And I'll be guessing this is really my creative part of work. Finding metaphors, just what I have learned about you today, how I, experience you as a group, and what metaphors could fit. And then you're gonna tell me, and then you can say, no, that doesn't fit to me. But give me another metaphor, and we're gonna work around the metaphors. So it's gonna be also a lot of creative process tomorrow, but more structured, more. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now let's have some coffee.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I have to keep my energy level to do the same round.
Yeah.
This is really tough.
Yeah.
This is really tough. I know, because this is a lot of. So I want to make notes since I'm still in your spirit. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you.